Hey guys, thanks for joining me. I was actually filling out some paperwork because I'm doing another bulk submission to PSA to get a bunch of stuff graded. And I realized as I was looking at the cards to see which ones I'm going to submit, I was looking for certain imperfections, and I realized that a lot of you guys obviously look for, the usual stuff, centering, corners, are the edges clean, etc., etc. But a lot of people don't really look at the surface that much. I know it's kind of obvious you look for any creases or maybe some deep wrinkles or anything like that, but a lot of the lower grades you get, especially on vintage, is not so much due to centering and corners. It's due to issues on the issues on the surface that you might have missed at first glance. Now, in order to help you guys understand all the different surface issues that you can have, I have a stack of cards here, all of which have a different type of surface issue, and I will be going through all of them and giving you guys examples of each one to make sure that you check for these issues before you send to PSA, so you don't send a card that you're absolutely positive it's gonna get a PSA 8 or a 9 because it just looks amazing, and it comes back a 3 or a 5 and just ruins your day. Okay, believe me, I've been there. Some of you guys have been there. So I wanna go ahead and walk you through some of the most obvious surface issues to some of the surface issues that you absolutely would have never noticed, or if you didn't know that this would be an issue, or you noticed but didn't think it would make that much of an impact. Okay, so first obvious issue I'm going to start with, this is, and by the way, I'm going through years from 1940 cards all the way up to 2020 cards, and I'll get that to the very end, okay? But my main focus is going to be vintage, so it's going to be 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, so on. Okay, so first thing that you can see is very obvious on this one right here is right in this area, you are looking at some what appears to be some type of residue. So at first glance, it just looks like a line, but if I carefully take this out, you will see that it's actually, it looks like it was somewhat maybe glued to an album, and that is like some type of black residue, some type of glue, or maybe the album was black and just kind of stuck to it over the years. And another issue, this card actually has two issues. One is something stuck to it, and then right here, if you look at the very bottom, you'll see it looks like somebody tried to take out whatever was stuck at a certain part, or maybe it just fell off and it caused paper loss. So if you look right there, you'll see that there's some paper missing because it's a little bit of a different color to the rest of the card right next to it. Okay, so anything from residue stuck to it to paper loss can be a surface issue, and this is obviously a pretty obvious one that most people could see, but what you might not know is that it will significantly downgrade your card. So if this card, let's just say, has no creases, and you look at it and you think, it'll get at least a 4, it's probably going to get a 2 because of those surface issues. Okay, next card I want to show you is a very obvious one. Again, card looks good for the most part, but you have some tape residue. Okay, so this is a major surface issue. Again, people used to tape cards and put them into albums. I always say, if you know somebody who threw their cards in the trash, or their mom threw their cards in trash, or if they taped their cards to an album, something like that, I always say go ahead and thank those people, because those are the people that made this hobby and this industry and this business what it is today. Because if all those millions of cards existed today, they wouldn't be as collectible, they wouldn't be as valuable, they wouldn't be as sought after, and people, believe it or not, wouldn't care as much. When there's a lot of something, people don't care. You always crave chocolate when there's like one piece left in the box. So that's kind of the way it works. So tape residue. Okay, next surface imperfection. This is a very obvious one, and this is surface creasing, as you can see. Okay, now what's really cool, or not so cool, about this card I want to show you, people always get creases and wrinkles mixed up and they think it's the same thing. See that crease right down the middle? That is a real crease, and the reason why is because you can see the crease from the backside. So if you look, you can see it. Let me try to, again, just trying to give it a little bend here so you guys can see it. Okay, however, there is also a crease, as you can see, towards the bottom here, right there. So that is not actually a crease, that is a wrinkle. So the difference between a crease and a wrinkle is that a crease can be seen on the front and the back, like this one can, while as a wrinkle can only be seen on one side of the surface. So obviously it's hard to see it through the camera, but if you take a real close look, you can see the top middle crease, but you cannot see anything or feel anything on the back side from the bottom crease, because it's not a crease, it's a wrinkle. Okay, so that is some more common surface issues. And I have a couple more common surface issues, and then I'll get into the really hard to see stuff that's really gonna help you or hurt you. Now, I just opened the 1972 Topps Baseball Wax Pack. In case you guys missed it, it was about 4 or 5 days ago, so please go and watch that video. It was awesome. So this was the top card. As you can see, there's a gigantic gum stain on it. So obviously you try to grade this card, it's really not gonna grade higher than, it's not gonna grade higher than a 1. It's just so bad. It doesn't matter if it's dead centered and has sharp corners. It's just, the surface is just so bad. And you can see the imprint of the gum, if you saw right there, all the way down and like this. And this was so nasty, it was probably kept in a humid environment, that the gum actually leaked to the backside of the card. Okay, so that's a gum stain. Here is another example of a gum stain from a pack I recently opened. You can see the imprint right there, the rectangular imprint. So that is another form of a gum stain, also on the surface. Here's a couple cards, also 2001 Topps. These are paper loss. Basically, some people refer to this as snowing, and you can tell because it looks like Kurt Schilling over here has a lot of dandruff on his shirt, but really he doesn't. It's just cards were stuck to one another, so when you pull them apart, the surface, the glossy surface just kind of peeled off, and that's why you get that surface imperfection. Now, here's a tough one. This was also pulled out of the 72 Topps Wax Pack that I recently broke, and this one is a little bit of a tougher stain to catch, but it's there. And if you see right here, that is a wax stain. So this was the back card, and this is where the pack had closed the flaps, and this was probably the top flap because this was the bottom one, and then this flap came over here, I'm assuming. I'll watch the video again, but as you can see, the wax that touched the card actually stained it. So the front looks pretty awesome, but there is a wax stain. So that is going to take your card that looks like an 8 down to like a 3 if you're lucky, or you might get like a 5 ST, which stands for stain, so which could be basically any type of stain that we discussed today. Okay, now to the harder to see stains that are really gonna just ruin the grade and gonna piss you off and think you should have got an 8, but realistically you should have just been a little bit more careful, you know, vetting your cards before you send them to PSA. Now at first glance you look at this card and you go, wow, I mean, look at that thing, right? And then you look at the surface and you see there's something right there. You always want to hold it to the light, okay? And that looks like, it looks like some type of ink mark. So again, it doesn't look bad at first when you look at it like this, because it's brown, so maybe like the ink leaked or something like that. Because if you touch it, it looks like a hole, like it's indented, but it's not. It's just a mark. So that's gonna hurt your grade as well. Again, beautiful card, absolutely drop dead gorgeous centering, if not perfect centering for 1962, decent centering, edges, corners, all that. But that little surface right down there is gonna ruin your life, okay? So not worth sending to PSA. Again, this is investment value or resale value. If you guys just want to slab it because you love the card or the player and you want it in a PSA or an SGC slab, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. You can slab your card, but you won't get any value out of it as far as the dollar goes. So if you pay $3 for this card, you're gonna pay another, if you do a bulk submission, $8 to $10, or if you pay full price to eBay, PSA's regular submission, you're gonna pay $20, $25. They're gonna give you a very low grade, and this card is gonna be worth less than what you originally paid, not even including what you paid for the grading. So be careful, don't waste your money unless you just want it in a slab just for your PC, okay? And even then, you know, really think about if it's for you and you're not gonna resell it, do you even care if it's in a slab? So, okay, now to some more tougher surface issues that you might not have noticed, and they could ruin your submission. So again, another drop dead gorgeous 1962 Topps card. Just as good centering, even better corners and edges, amazing back, and everything about this card is, I mean, I don't know, to the naked eye, this card is a 9 borderline 10. And then you hold it to the light and you see that. You guys see that running right through there? Now, I touched this and it feels like a very light, I mean, you could barely feel the indentation, and the only reason I feel it is maybe it's just psychological, maybe because I know it's there. But this is a imperfection that basically happens at the factory. This thing probably ran through the machine, through the rollers, and it indented it. Now, if this had gone through the machine and smeared the ink, and for example, if there was black ink running through his face, that happens sometimes for the roller marks, PSA does downgrade you on that, but they don't consider that a mark. That's just a factory imperfection. So if your card looks like an 8, they might give it a 6 because you have that ink rolling down, because it just doesn't have the eye appeal of an 8. But if you have this indentation, this will significantly hurt, excuse me, significantly hurt your grade. So for example, if you were gonna, you know, guess that this was gonna grade an 8 or a 9, this is probably gonna grade a 4 or a 5. Okay, probably less, maybe 3 or a 4, although it looks absolutely amazing, okay? So, I have a couple more surface issues that you might not notice. Oopsie, got stuck to my finger. I have greasy fingers today. Okay, so this one, you might not notice this one. This will help, this will hurt your grade just a little bit, but not too much. This one, if you look at the top border, why is it doing this again? All right, so you will see that there, it's very faint, but there's a black print line running through the very top of the card. Okay, so like I said, this, you most likely will miss something like this unless you know what you're looking for. Again, it's a very faint black line, and it looks like some type of black ink from either this card or another card got onto the roller. It wasn't dry enough yet, and the roller just smeared the ink. So again, this will hurt your grade just a little bit, but not too much. I have found in the past that if the card overall looks really good, and that line, if it's through the top or through the middle of the card, unless it doesn't go through the face of the player and really ruin the appeal, PSA doesn't downgrade you that much, but it is still an imperfection, and it is something to pay attention to, okay? Last but not least, this is an issue that I have had with other vintage cards in the past. I hope you're watching this video all the way through, because this is the most important one, because this is a big one. This is going to take your card that's literally packed fresh. I pulled this card out of a 1970 Topps wax pack a few days ago, and the video is on YouTube. It is going to take your gorgeous card from an 8 or a 9 or whatever you think it's going to grade down to somewhere in the 3 section, in the 3 grades. And I'll tell you why. You look at this card, front and back. I mean, if you look at it like this really quickly, again, it just looks immaculate. Yeah, it's centered a little bit to the left versus the right. But other than that, I mean, for a 1972 Topps card, this thing is pretty much cream of the crop. However, there is one thing. And by the way, the reason why I noticed it, And the reason for this video is because I was doing a PSA submission. This is one of the cards I was going to submit because I had just pulled it. And then I noticed this and I said, crap, this has happened before. I can't send it in, but let me make sure no one else does either. And if they do, they know they're wasting their time, or at least don't waste your time knowing that this exists, okay? So, again, beautiful 1972 Topps card. You look at it and everything is just about where it's supposed to be, except if you can tell, there is a teeny, tiny indentation right here. I mean, it's not a crease, it's not a wrinkle, it's not a mark. I don't even I don't know if it was done by a roller mark or by a fingernail. I know it wasn't my fingernail, so maybe somebody who handled the pack before I opened it. But if you look, it's right there. Right there. So there's that tiny little indentation. So guys, you should know that when you send your cards, especially your vintage cards or all your cards to PSA, one of the first things they're gonna look, I mean, yeah, they'll look at the centering and the, you know, the corners, the very, very obvious things. But then they're gonna put this sucker under a black light or under like some type of patented light that shows them all the imperfections that the naked eye doesn't see. And the first thing that's gonna glare at them is that indentation. And when they see that indentation, I promise you, game over for your card. Game over, guys. Okay, so be careful when you send these cards, because then you're gonna get really, really pissed. And this has happened to me too. I sent I want to say it was a 1975 Topps. I want to say it was an Alkaline or Harmon Killebrew. And I also sent a Nolan Ryan 78 Topps as well. And the 78 Topps came back a 3, and the 75 Topps came back I think a 4 or 5. And they both looked amazing, like really amazing. And then I looked at it closer. I had it like just kind of had the light reflect on it like this. And I saw that there was some light indentations like this. So believe it or not, guys, yes, that is gonna make the difference between a PSA 7, 8, 9, and a 2, 3, 4, okay? So just watch out for that, guys. I hope that this video was valuable to you. I hope it saves you some time and money. I hope you're a little bit more careful when you examine your vintage cards before sending to PSA. And yeah, guys, I hope you got something out of this. And just remember, these little indentations, you might look at it and be like, oh, it's a minor mark, but it's going to be a major downgrade at PSA. And by the way, if you're sending in new cards, same thing. You want to look at corners, centering, all that, blah, blah, blah. Everything that the naked eye can see. However, one thing you want to look for, again, on newer cards, especially anything that's like shiny. You know, let's look at this Zion Williamson Prism card here, okay? So let me get this sucker out. You will notice that these cards, again, this is 2020, okay? 2019. So the cards are beautiful, but same thing, guys. If you notice anything about the surface on these cards, you're gonna get downgraded significantly. So this one looks pretty clean for the most part. I will be sending this into PSA, but just know that you pulled it right out of the pack, you're happy, you want to get it graded, and you're like, dude, it's a card. I pulled it out of the pack myself. It's from 2020 or 2019. It's got to be perfect. Doesn't mean that, guys. The surface scratches on newer cards are different than older cards. Older cards, it almost kind of makes an indentation. On newer cards, it kind of, you can see the scratch. It's more obvious. It more looks like actual scratch lines. And just know, guys, that those little things, they're going to make a really, really, really big difference on your grade. So don't think just because you pulled it out of a pack and it's perfect that you're gonna get like some amazing grade. You know, it doesn't necessarily mean that. So anyway, guys, again, I hope I saved you some time and some money on grading your vintage cards. Thank you guys for joining me. I truly appreciate it. And hopefully you guys will join me on the next one. If you haven't hit that thumbs up button, please go and hit that thumbs up button. And if you haven't subscribed, I would really appreciate if you could subscribe to the channel. I have a 1,000 subscriber contest coming soon as well. And just want to let you guys know that next to the subscribe button, there's a little bell. You probably never heard this before, but if you hit that bell and you choose all, you will get notified for all of the videos that I post. Doesn't mean you have to watch it, but you'll at least get a notification from YouTube. If you do not hit that bell and hit all, what YouTube does is basically they let you know whenever they feel like letting you know, which is basically at random. Okay, so don't let YouTube pick, you know, when or what movies or, excuse me, videos you should watch or not watch. Hit that all button, get notified, be part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys at the next one. I love collecting. If you haven't already started, please buy, sell, trade, invest, go to your local card shows and your card shops, and just walk around and see what talks to you. You don't always have to know what you're going to collect or what's going to be a lifetime obsession for you. Just walk around and see what talks to you, and you never know, guys. You might walk out, you know, leading on a path of collecting a certain team or a certain set that you never thought that you would collect. Okay, thanks again, guys. Please hit that like button, please subscribe, please choose all, and we'll see you on the next one. Keep on collecting, guys.